I didn't see the notice, but I've got my screen sort of maximized with my
Yes,
presentation.
we
Okay.
are.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. And it's the third year I've done this in May for North Atlanta, and I enjoy my volunteering there, typically in November and December. I've been doing that for several years, and I really value that. We live in the area, so I'm an independent college counselor. Sometimes people call us independent educational consultants or IECs. I sort of prefer the counselor description. And I worked for Emory as a seasonal reader for a couple of years. So I saw thousands of essays and transcripts. And I've worked for College Essay Guide. That'll be sort of a theme because there's a lot of great free content out there from College Essay Guy, and the organization does a great job. So in presentations like this, I do reference that quite a bit. And there's this sheet with a lot of links that you can look at afterwards. And I'm happy to answer any questions. So in any event, I basically we're going to start off by talking about the the Common App personal essay, also known as the Common App personal statement. We're also going to talk about supplemental essays, and a lot of colleges have additional essays that they decide what questions to ask. So those are called supplemental essays. And there's some other application components, of course, some optional, some required. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end about any part of the common application, especially essays, since that's the topic. Essays are important. The most important thing is your grades and the classes you take, the rigor of your curriculum. So essays can make a big difference when colleges are trying to decide between similarly qualified applicants. So basically, the common application or the common app is accepted by over 1,000 colleges. So that's what I'm going to be talking mostly about. There are some colleges like MIT, the University of California system, the Cal State system that do not accept the common application. There used to be more that didn't accept it, and some of them are slowly migrating over to accepting it. So many colleges only require the common application and its personal statement, which is a 650 word maximum essay. And then, as I mentioned, other colleges also require students to respond to supplemental essays. Occasionally, colleges don't require essays at all, but it's always good to have the Common App personal statement done, if possible, as early as possible in the summer, because you likely will be applying to colleges that use it. So the more selective the college, the more they will typically weigh the essays, and also the more likely it is that they'll have extra essays, the supplemental essays. Some colleges are more by the numbers, GPA weighted or unweighted, SAT or ACT scores, but it's when we're looking at the more selective colleges, and also some of the smaller colleges where they have time maybe to have a more holistic review process where the essays can be really important. So in addition to the Common App personal essay or personal statement and supplemental essays, there's also something called the additional information section, which is a way to explain things that don't fit elsewhere in the application. Maybe you had a difficult semester or a difficult grade in a class, and that's usually better to explain it instead of letting colleges wonder what happened. There's also something called the challenges and circumstances essay. Students usually don't need to do both of those, and many students don't do either of them. The challenges and circumstances essay used to be called the COVID-19 essay, and it's sort of migrated a little bit. But um, I'm happy to answer questions later about the difference between the two of them. But they're both optional. So if you change high schools, if you've been to another high school before North Atlanta, when you list the multiple high schools, there'll automatically be a question where you explain why you change schools. It can be a really short explanation, or if needed, it can be a long one. In some situations, it might be long enough where you want to talk about it in a longer essay or in the additional information section. So let's start by talking about the Common App personal essay. So essentially, it adds your voice to the application. It lets colleges know what kind of person you are separate from the statistics, what they really see in your transcript, your test scores, and even your activities. Something where colleges can get to know you, um, your personal qualities. Some of the ones that often are really important are ones like intellectual curiosity, initiative, resilience and drive, collaboration, kindness. Kindness is very underrated. It's super important. Colleges want to know that you're a good person, you contribute to the community, you help other people, leadership, diversity of experiences. Those things can all be really important to colleges. Colleges want to know that you're going to be a good roommate, a good citizen on campus, and the content matters more than the writing style. Especially with AI these days, some students think that it may be good to have sort of a slick sounding essay, and that's not accurate. And AI actually does a really bad job of writing college essays. Um, there are some things that AI is good for, especially brainstorming, and you can ask it questions, but you do not want to be using things that AI wrote because it's going to sound like a lot of other students and it's going to be sort of bland and not really hook the reader emotionally. And the AI doesn't know you, so it's going to be a lot of generalities. So that's generally not a good idea in terms of writing your main essay or your supplemental essays. Again, the content matters more than the writing style. You don't want typographical errors though, so you want a trusted adult or more than one to look at it, but you don't want too many people looking at it because it can get confusing. So getting started with the personal essay, brainstorming ideas is great. Some students, can use AI for that. Some students will just write down ideas, pencil and paper. For some students, free writing is good because you just get the thoughts out. You don't really have to worry about grammar or organization or sentence structure or typos. For some people, free writing is really not a great strategy for them. It's better to maybe do an outline and just start writing it in a way that's not quite as free writing. So it really just depends on what works better for you. So it helps to have one or more themes and to use stories and anecdotes and really describing what happened and why these events matter. And I'll show you later a couple of um, structures that work for a lot of students depending on topic. Um, Plain language is better than using fancy words that you wouldn't use when you're talking. So if you're seeing a lot of words like plethora and other words that you're not going to use on an everyday basis, that's a signal that it's really not the best idea in a personal statement or any college essay. So the key is to start early, do a lot of revising, proofreading. Grammarly free version is great for typos and significant grammar issues, but you do not want to use Grammarly to be replacing chunks of words because then it's really just like using ChatGPT or Claude, where it's writing it for you, and it may be smoother, but it may not have a good effect because colleges want things written in the voice of a 17 or 18-year-old. And again, they're looking more for what kind of person you are and what you're going to bring to the college. And they're not expecting you to write like you're in or out of college. So parents can be a great source of advice on topics, especially before you start writing. There could be challenges you've gone through, or stories, or accomplishments, or things that maybe you forgot about. So, parents can really be helpful in the brainstorming phase and also in the proofreading at the end. I know we looked at our own kids' essays before they went to colleges, but there were other people who were advising them along the way, and we really didn't even know what the topics of their essays were until the very end. And I thought that was healthy for everybody. So it's not a great idea for parents to write or significantly edit your essay because it often loses the voice of a high school student. So this summer is a great time to get started on your essays once school is out, because supplemental essays tend to get released over the summer, or August 1st is sort of the standard deadline, but a lot of colleges will release their supplemental essays a little bit earlier, like Georgia and Georgia Tech typically have theirs out in June and July. But if you're applying to colleges that are going to be really releasing supplemental essay questions on August 1st, when the Common App goes live for the class of 2027, then you want to be done with everything you could have done before that. So that means your personal essay, your activities list, if you have awards that are academic or arts related, community service related, those types of awards. You want to have that list, the activity list and the award list in pretty good shape, really by the end of July. So you can focus on the supplemental essays that come out after that. So there are 7 prompts that are the same as last year, and they're listed here. I'm not going to go over them because, unlike the supplemental essays where the wording of the prompt matters a lot and you really need to focus on it, the wording of the prompt for the personal statement really doesn't matter that much. What prompt do you pick doesn't matter. You want to pick a prompt that goes with your essay, but it's often better to wait until you're done or pretty much done with your essay to figure out what prompt it addresses, because you can see almost prompts 1 through 6 will pretty much address any topic. And prompt topic 7 is topic of your choice. So um, these are paraphrases of the prompts, but um, that's sort of in a nutshell what each of them are. So the key language really is in the common application at the beginning of the personal essay. Um, it says, what do you want the readers of your application to know about you apart from courses, grades, and test scores? And I would add to that your activities list, because they're going to have your activities list also. So colleges want to get to know you as a person. What can you convey that's not elsewhere in your application? So uh, colleges generally don't even pay attention to what prompt you chose. They're in a hurry. A lot of them are only spending 7 or 8 minutes on your whole application. So it might only be 60 or 90 seconds on your main essay. So a lot of times colleges are just zooming through and they're looking for personal qualities and traits to pull out of the essay to sort of supplement what else they know about you from your transcript, your test scores, teacher recommendations, activities, and awards lists. So I wouldn't really focus too much on saying, I want to pick prompt 2 and then try to answer it. You really want to figure out what you want to convey to the college first and then pick the prompt later on. So in terms of brainstorming a topic, it doesn't have to be a super life-altering kind of thing. It really varies on what your experiences and background are. So everyone has something or many things that colleges, would like to read about you. So, how would friends and families describe you? How would coaches describe you? That can often lead to deciding what anecdotes and stories and experiences to use in your Common App personal statement. You can look at the prompts for ideas. And again, if you click on this, um, it's going to have a longer version of all of these prompts. But that can help you brainstorm for sure. But I wouldn't be constrained by the prompts. And yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, ChatGPT and other AI agents can be super helpful in brainstorming topics, especially if you give it a lot of detail in terms of different aspects of you. The college essay guy has a lot of really good brainstorming exercises, and they're linked here, and they're also linked in the separate document that I'll show you briefly at the end. But there's a lot of things like if you click on the values exercise, you can sort of figure out, among this big list, what are 10 of your most important values, and then narrow it down to five, and then to three, and then to one. And then you can sort of get ideas for essays that way. Essence objects is a really good one too, because you can look around your room or your house, and sometimes just looking at objects can spur ideas or think about experiences that you've had. There's a lot of other good exercises, so I definitely encourage you to explore those. It is limited to 650 words, as I mentioned. If you're looking at the more selective colleges, especially, I always like to shoot for at least 90% of the word limit, so 585 words, ideally more than that. Um, Under 500 words is really not going to be great. So you should have enough to say to write in the high 500s to low 600s to mid 600s. But you also want it to be concise. So sometimes if you are writing something that might start off as 700 or 750 words, with help from, a trusted adult can help, trim it down and make it a little more tight and still be within the word limit. So there are sort of an unlimited number of structures, and there's really no rules. But there are a couple that for a lot of students work really well. So if you've had a challenge, it could be a physical challenge, it could be something else. A really effective way to structure that is to basically break the essay into thirds. So about 200 or a little bit over 200 words, in each of the three sections. The first one is describe the challenge and how it impacted you, or challenges, plural. And the second third of the essay would be how you responded, what you did. And the last part of the essay, preferably about a third also, would be what you learned, how you grew as a person, what lessons you're going to take with you into college. Because colleges want to know what you're like now and what you're going to be like in college. They don't want you necessarily to dwell on the challenge. So that's the mistake that some people make when they're talking about a challenge. They might spend 400 or 450 words on the challenge and then sort of maybe give short shrift to how they responded, and also what they learned and how they grew. So there's a link here to how to write a overcoming challenges essay that has this structure and has a lot more useful information about that. A lot of people, I would say the majority of students that I work with don't really have a significant hardship or challenge that's really going to be a great idea for their college essay. So again, there's no magic formula, but there's one structure that the college essay guide talks about called the montage structure, where you're basically taking seemingly unrelated experiences or stories, and they may have a couple of common threads or maybe one common thread. So some of these examples I've got over here. If someone wants to maybe talk a lot about books, they could talk about, volunteering at a library, maybe leading a book club, um, maybe spending a lot of time in the library and finding, comfort in books, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. Other essays, an example, this gardening essay, maybe you grew tomatoes with a grandparent, and then you did something with composting at school, and you can relate that somehow to AP Bio and some other independent studies you're doing on a related issue. So I had a student once write about creativity, and the first part about it was the first part of the essay was focusing on um, tinkering with electronics and figure things out around the house. The second part was sort of related. It was about repairing some, broken things around the house, but not necessarily electronics. And the third part was being really creative as a cook and just sort of making concoctions and putting all kinds of things in dishes that maybe seemed a little bit unusual. Yeah, I had another student write about being an artist, but his version of being an artist was doing origami and also being a high level piano player and creating math problems for middle school students for math competitions. So we worked on that, and it showed a lot of things: intellectual curiosity, collaboration, teamwork, and it worked really well. So um, again, there's a lot of different ways to do this, and it doesn't have to be either of these two structures. College Essay Guy has other structures that can work, and other there's other advice you can find about different essays that work. So um, I would avoid going on TikTok or YouTube and basically trying to say, you have watch essay videos. I got into this school by doing this, and you should do something similar to that. It's usually not effective because everybody's different, and you also don't know what their grades, their test scores, their activities were. So you want to be yourself, and that's the most important thing. So there's some things that would be best avoided when you're doing your personal essay. So you don't want to be repeating what you have in your activities list or your awards list. You can talk about one or more of your activities if you're going in depth on it and it's showing something about you that's not going to be in your activities list. So that's really a case by case thing, but you don't want to be repeating. You don't want to be cryptic or subtle or use metaphors because colleges are in a real hurry. The college admissions offices are understaffed, and they don't really have time to appreciate things that are subtle. They really don't. Just being concise, straightforward, again, plain language, that's the most important thing, as opposed to writing and doing something extremely unusual or creative in the way you're writing it, because it just might not get absorbed in the rush that the colleges are in to read them. So as far as AI, again, they don't do a good job of writing essays, and a lot of colleges prohibit it. Some use AI checkers, but even ones that don't, it's pretty obvious to tell when an essay has been written primarily by AI. I have students where I know what their writing looks like, and I see something, and I try not to accuse students, but it just is not good. And on another issue, cliches are not good either. So I've quoted some of them there, but it's okay to occasionally use something that's a little bit cliche, but you want to try to avoid it if at all possible. So you can write really interesting essays that show the colleges a lot about you and all the great qualities and traits that you have without using cliches. So um, your essay should focus on your high school years. It's okay if you're trying to set context by mentioning something in elementary or middle school, but you don't want your essay to be 40 or 50% or more something before high school. So That's one point. Also, try to avoid spending a lot of your words on other people, whether they're parents or grandparents or friends. Colleges want to know about you. They want to be able to admit you. So I would focus on yourself through your stories and anecdotes. Mental health is risky. I'm not saying don't ever do it in a Common App personal statement, but especially if it's a current condition, it's usually not the best idea. So there's usually other topics that you can write about that are better. If you do feel after consultation with a trusted adult that discussing your mental health is important to your application, it is usually best done in that additional information section, the optional one, or the other optional one I mentioned, the challenges and circumstances essay, as opposed to your personal statement. Being vulnerable is good. That's actually a very big part of essays that are effective. The college essay guy has something called the Great College Essay Test that's in the link um, that you'll see in the document I'll show you at the end. Vulnerability is a trait that most really good college essays have, but you want to avoid too much information. You can be vulnerable without oversharing. So here's a little cartoon that gets the point across. Okay, so supplemental essays. As I mentioned, the wording of the questions or the prompts, as they're called, for supplemental essays are super important. You want to make sure you answer those fully. Most colleges don't have theirs available until August 1st, but some do come out earlier. So it's great you can work on those other ones in June and July. Um, at some colleges, the supplemental essays can be even more important than the personal essay because the personal essay is one that you're doing in the Common App. It's going to all your colleges, and you're not customizing it for specific colleges. And I wouldn't customize the personal statement for any particular colleges because they're not expecting it. And it also runs the risk of you forgetting to change it when you apply to another college and having the wrong college's name in there. So the supplemental essays are great for that. It can show your knowledge of the school and your interest in the college based on the amount of research you've done. You know about certain programs or certain professors, even. And there's a concept called demonstrated interest. I wrote a blog on that. That matters at some colleges. Generally, not the very most selective colleges in the country, but often a rung below that, it can really matter how interested you are in the college, whether that's visiting or getting on their emailing list and opening emails, clicking on links. Um, and there's databases that show which colleges consider demonstrated interest. So you can figure that out. UGA and Georgia Tech do not consider demonstrated interest, but um, it's still really important, at least in the Georgia Tech essay, because they ask you to talk about what you want to major in and why you want to do it at Georgia Tech. So there is some, demonstrated interest and demonstrated understanding more than interest. That's important for that. UGA's essay traditionally has not wanted you to discuss anything relating to UGA, but we'll see what their essays end up being for this admission cycle in the next couple months. So if essays are optional, it usually means you should do them. Sometimes a college might have 4 or 5 optional essays. In that case, depending on the college, you may not need to do all of them. But as a general rule, if it's an optional essay, it's in your best interest to do it. So even if it's a few of them, because it'll show interest in the school and it'll let the college know, it'll give you the opportunity to show the college more about yourself. As I mentioned, the wording of the prompts is very important, and you don't want to gloss over what they're asking for because the colleges are specifically giving students these questions because they want responses to them. So The most important thing is to figure out what the college is really asking about and to address the prompt, all parts of it. You can reuse a lot of content from one college to another, such as why do you want to major in psychology or mechanical engineering? Um, but typically, a good part of that essay is also going to address aspects of that college or university. So while you can usually use a chunk of those types of essays, you do have to modify them for each college in many cases. So there are a lot of um, common prompts for supplemental essays. So some colleges might say, why are you interested in this college? What they really want to know is why you're a good match for the college. So you don't want to compliment the college and talk about how highly ranked they are or what great programs they have. You really want to, show who you are and link yourself, your story to what the college stands for. So you can look at a college's mission statement, you can look at the culture. You don't want to talk about weather or location. Um, so I guess in a nutshell, you want to sell yourself without really making it look like you're selling yourself. So um, why major is another common essay. So Georgia Tech has an essay like that. It's a little bit of a combination because it talks about why you want to major in such and such at Georgia Tech. But some colleges might have both of these, but if there's only a why major and you have room, it is definitely super helpful to write about what about that college interests you. So you can show why you're interested in this particular major or even track within a major. Um, if there are particular professors who have research that really interests you, that can be helpful to mention. Classes you want to take at the school, extracurricular activities that relate to the major. So again, you want to customize this for each college. Some colleges will ask about extracurricular activities. Please discuss an activity that's meaningful to you. So again, you want to connect that to how you're going to contribute to that activity or something similar at the college. So if you're talking about, mock trial or model UN or something else that you do, you want to look to see, do some research into the college and show what they offer that's sort of similar. What's the next logical step that you're going to be doing at the college in that area? And, in the process, you can show your leadership, you can show your involvement and how you've helped others, but you want to weave it into what you're going to be involved in at the college. Sort of similar. Community is can be a similar essay. It's a pretty broad definition, the word community. I mean, it can be part of your school, it could be a team, it could be something religious. Um, so it could be volunteer work that you do. It has a lot of similarities to the extracurricular activity, but it also can be a little bit different because often as part of a community, you might have maybe more in common with other people in that community than you might in an extracurricular activity. So it's the same kind of thing. You want to talk about what you've done or what you've been involved in high school and how you're going to translate that to college, what kind of impact you're going to make in college. Um, the identity essay is has primarily gone away. There were a few this last cycle, but due to the Supreme Court's decision a few years ago and the current administration, a lot of colleges have moved away from that. But the community essay can often be used to convey similar issues and topics as the identity essay. But there are some colleges that still have an essay like this in terms of They may not ask it like this, but they want to know how you're going to add to the diversity of the college. So anything you can talk about in that area can be really helpful. And then let's see, going back to the beginning, again, the most important thing is to give a college the sense of who you are as a person, what you're going to bring to the school, and really connect emotionally with the reader. And some topics are not ideal for the personal statement, whether it be mental health or some other topics. Politics can often be a topic that's not ideal. Um, Relationships can often not be the best, but there are exceptions to everything. So there's not necessarily a bright line rule, but usually they're better topics. So, and then I am going to click on this. Hopefully you can see this. Um, so this is the link the link document I was telling you about. So can you all see this?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So you'll have this. It's organized by topic. So there's some brainstorming exercises. There's some overview. There's something called the Access Companion, which is awesome. It's a free, no login guide to the Common App, and it takes you through every section of the Common App. I'm actually writing a blog on this week on my website, but it's really helpful for anybody, and it has videos, it has written guidance. It's really great. So that can be helpful whether you're just setting up your Common App account, and you can set up your Common App account. Um, early in the summer. You don't wait until August 1st necessarily. It's just that certain things will roll over on August 1st, like the basic sections like name, address, parents, so on and so forth. But you definitely do not want to be working on things that are not going to roll over on August 1st, like college specific essays and some other things. So, and there's guidance on the Common App website about what gets saved pre and post August 1st. So but anyway, there's a lot of different guidance here. Again, supplemental essays, a lot of guidance here from College Essay Guy and Access Companion and other parts of the Common Application. There's some guidance there, University of California system, and then for low-income households, there's a couple of great programs. Matchlighters, which I volunteer with, it's free college counseling, at least 10 hours, often a lot more, for students who qualify from an income standpoint. And there's also something called Matriculate. So if you're in that category, I encourage you to look at those organizations. So let's see. I will stop sharing. Do you all have any questions?
So you all should be able to go off mute if you have any questions. You can also drop them into the chat.
I know sometimes the hardest thing is getting started with essays, but you all have a lot of really important things to say to colleges, and it's tough getting started. But once you get started, once whether it's outlining or free writing or using AI to sort of help you brainstorm, um, you all will have a lot of great things to say about colleges. And let's see. So I believe the links are posted. Um,
Yes, it should be the very top um, document that you see in the chat, but I am going to attach it one more time.
Does anybody have any questions about topics or any other logistics about essay writing? There's no right or wrong way to do it. And for some people, using audio recording, either on their phone or on their computer, can be super helpful just to get ideas out.
Someone in the chat said, I know you said something for lower income households, but is there anything for middle income households?
I mean, those particular organizations, no. I mean, there's definitely a lot of free content out there, and I know you all, as college counselors at North Atlanta, have a lot of resources, and you can advise them personally, and also, um, point students and families, parents to trusted resources versus ones that might not be so great because there's definitely a lot out there. Whether it's on college admissions or other things, it's sometimes tough to separate what's good advice from what's not. But I certainly encourage um, all of y'all students to use your counselors at North Atlanta and
I have a question. What are
yep.
your thoughts on if I wanted to write about maybe me in a relationship with someone and like how that's affected me or those kinds of experiences? Would you say steer away from that and really just focus on myself, or would it be okay to maybe write about a relationship, like a familiar relationship or something?
Yeah, I mean, I think a familial relationship is going to be most of the time a lot better than say a romantic relationship. But yeah, I think a family relationship can be super effective because it could end up showing resilience, compassion, yeah, collaboration. It could be showing a lot of really good personal qualities. And I don't know if it's a relationship that was sort of a challenge at the beginning and then it got better, or I don't know, all the particulars or what your other options would be in terms of topics. But one option would be to use the Common App personal statement to talk about that. Another option, if you had something else you really liked a lot to write about, is if you feel like it's relevant to how you did in high school or somehow, maybe something you had to overcome. It can be an additional information or a challenges and circumstances, one of those two optional essays. But yeah, I've had students write about relationships that they've had with their parents or other relatives or even friends. That can be really good essays.
Okay, thank you so much.
Um, Hi. I know you mentioned like you just mentioned talked about relationships, like familiar relationships, but I'm like I don't know, I'm thinking about I guess our relationship with a culture, like with your personal culture, I guess. Like if someone were to talk about how they're like second or first generation immigrants or something along those lines, would that work?
Yeah, I definitely think it could work. It just depends on if you're using the structure of sort of a challenge, that, if it's a challenge, it could be used in that sense. If it's not a challenge, if it's been more, something that's been positive along the way, it could have a different tone to it. But yeah, I definitely think that if that's an important part of a student, which it certainly is, I think in some capacity that's worth writing about.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it would be in like an angle of this is why I want to follow this career. So.
Let's see.
So for
I'm putting this resource document in the chat again. I don't know if the comments haven't read the comments that carefully, but I don't know if anybody was having trouble accessing it. But
Yeah, some families were having trouble accessing, so that I think that will solve the issue. Thank you very much.
yeah, it's just an anyone on the link can with anyone with the link on the internet can view it. So I'm sorry, was someone else asking another question?
I do not think so. I think all the other comments were just troubleshooting.
Wow, no other questions? Well, I guess if anyone has any follow-up questions, you can let your North Atlanta counselors know, and or you can let me know. Let's see. Oh, I'll try and attach. I'll try and attach the. I'm going to attach the. Let's see the PowerPoint. I have a PDF version that might be good to attach if I can do that. I'm not super familiar with Teams here.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm that that's what I'm trying to figure out how to attach. I can hold on 1 second. I think I can do it. If you all would give me 1 second, I can upload the PDF uh presentation to here, and you all should have access to it in just one moment.
well, if no one else has any other questions, good luck on your exams if you're still taking them. I'm not quite sure where y'all are in the process. I know there's AP exams that are finishing up and final exams, but y'all got this, and it's awesome that you're thinking about essays this early and hopefully get a head start over the summer. And hopefully the resources I provided are helpful. And you want to do the best you can, but you also don't want to stress about it too much because there's a whole lot about you as a person and an applicant um, beyond your essays. So you do want to control what you can control. So that's why I like students to do the best they can on their essays. But you have to keep it in context, and there's no such thing as a perfect essay. You just want colleges to get to know you as a person and be excited about what you're going to bring to the campus. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Unless anyone has any other questions.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Tupper, for your time. Families, I will, so because you all registered, I have your email addresses. Today or tomorrow, sorry, I will be sending you a copy of it. I cannot seem to figure out how to upload the PDF presentation, but I will send you the PDF version of the presentation as well as the recording if I am able to download it, but at least you'll have access to the SharePoint version of it. But thank you all so much for coming today.
Thanks so much.